Verses 14 to 21. They solemnly engaged for her preservation in the common destruction, v. 14. Our life for yours. We will take as much care of your lives as of our own, and would as soon hurt ourselves as any of you. Nay, they imprecate God's judgments on themselves if they should violate their promise to her. She had pawned her life for theirs, and now they in requital pawn their lives for hers, and, as public persons, with them they pawn the public faith and the credit of their nation, for they plainly interest all Israel in the engagement in those words, when the Lord has given us the land, meaning not themselves only, but the people whose agents they were. No doubt they knew themselves sufficiently authorized to treat with Rahab concerning this matter, and were confident that Joshua would ratify what they did, else they had not dealt honestly. The general law that they should make no covenant with the Canaanites, do 7:2, did not forbid them to take under their protection a particular person, that had heartily come into their interests and had done them real kindnesses. The law of gratitude is one of the laws of nature. The promises they made her. In general, we will deal kindly and truly with thee, v. 14. We will not only be kind in promising now, but true in performing what we promise, and not only true in performing just what we promise, but kind in outdoing thy demands and expectations. The goodness of God is often expressed by his kindness and truth, PS 1:17:2, and in both these we must be followers of him. In particular, if a hand be upon any in the house with thee, his blood shall be on our head, v. 19. If hurt come through our carelessness to those whom we are obliged to protect, we thereby contract guilt, and blood will be found a heavy load. The provisos and limitations of their promises. Though they were in haste, and it may be in some confusion, yet we find them very cautious in settling this agreement and the terms of it, not to bind themselves to more than was fit for them to perform. Note, covenants must be made with care, and we must swear in judgment, lest we find ourselves perplexed and entangled when it is too late after vows to make inquiry. Those that will be conscientious in keeping their promises will be cautious in making them, and perhaps may insert conditions which others may think frivolous. Their promise is here accompanied with 3 provisos, and they were necessary ones. They will protect Rahab, and all her relations always, provided that she tie the scarlet cord with which she was now about to let them down in the window of her house, v. 18. This was to be a mark upon the house, which the spies would take care to give notice of to the camp of Israel, that no soldier, how hot and eager soever he was in military executions, might offer any violence to the house that was thus distinguished. This was like the blood sprinkled upon the doorpost, which secured the firstborn from the destroying angel, and, being of the same color, some allude to this also to represent the safety of believers under the protection of the blood of Christ sprinkled on the conscience. The same cord that she made use of for the preservation of these Israelites was to be made use of for her preservation. What we serve and honor God with we may expect he will bless and make comfortable to us. That she should have all those whose safety she had desired in the house with her and keep them there, and that, at the time of taking the town, none of them should dare to stir out of doors, v. 18:19. This was a necessary proviso, for Rahab's kindred could not be distinguished any other way than by being in her distinguished house. Should they mingle with their neighbors, there was no remedy, but the sword would devour one as well as another. It was a reasonable proviso that, since they were saved purely for Rahab's sake, her house should have the honor of being their castle, and that, if they would not perish with those that believed not, they should thus far believe the certainty and severity of the ruin coming upon their city as to retire into a place made safe by promise, as Noah into the ark and Lot into Zoar, and should save themselves from this untoward generation, by separating from them. It was likewise a significant proviso, intimating to us that those who are added to the church that they may be saved must keep close to the society of the faithful, and, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust, must take heed of being again entangled therein. That she should keep counsel, v. 14:20. If thou utter this our business, that is, if thou betray us when we are gone, or if thou make this agreement public, so as that others tie scarlet lines in their windows and so confound us, then we will be clear of thy oath. Those are unworthy of the secret of the Lord that know now how to keep it to themselves when there is occasion. She then took effectual care to secure her new friends, and sent them out another way. Having fully understood the bargain they made with her, and consented to it, v. 21, she then let them down by a cord over the city wall, v. 15, the situation of her house befriending them herein. Thus Paul made his escape out of Damascus. She also directed them which way to go for their own safety, being better acquainted with the country than they were, v. 16. She directs them to leave the high road, and abscond in the mountains till the pursuers returned, for till then they could not safely venture over Jordan. Those that are in the way of God and their duty may expect that Providence will protect them, but this will not excuse them from taking all prudent methods for their own safety. God will keep us, but then we must not willfully expose ourselves. Providence must be trusted, but not tempted. Calvin thinks that their charge to Rahab to keep this matter secret, and not to utter it, was intended for her safety, lest she, boasting of her security from the sword of Israel, should, before they came to protect her, fall into the hands of the king of Jericho and be put to death for treason. Thus do they prudently advise her for her safety, as she advised them for theirs. And it is good advice, which we should at any time be thankful for, to take heed to ourselves. Verses 22 to 24. We have here the safe return of the spies Joshua had sent, and the great encouragement they brought with them to Israel to proceed in their descent upon Canaan. Had they been disposed to discourage the people, as the evil spies did that Moses sent, they might have told them what they had observed of the height and strength of the walls of Jericho, and the extraordinary vigilance of the king of Jericho, and how narrowly they escaped out of his hands, but they were of another spirit, and, depending themselves upon the divine promise, they animated Joshua likewise. Their return in safety was itself an encouragement to Joshua, and a token for good. That God provided for them so good a friend as Rahab was in an enemy's country, and that notwithstanding the rage of the king of Jericho and the eagerness of the pursuers they had come back in peace, was such an instance of God's great care concerning them for Israel's sake as might assure the people of the divine guidance and care they were under, which should undoubtedly make the progress of their arms glorious. He that so wonderfully protected their scouts would preserve their men of war, and cover their heads in the day of battle. The report they brought was much more encouraging, v. 24. All the inhabitants of the country, though resolved to stand it out, yet do faint because of us. They have neither wisdom to yield nor courage to fight, whence they conclude, truly the Lord has delivered into our hands all the land, it is all our own, we have nothing to do, in effect, but to take possession. Sinners' frights are sometimes sure presages of their fall. If we resist our spiritual enemies they will flee before us, which will encourage us to hope that in due time we shall be more than conquerors.